The Tampa Bay Buccaneers may see the debut of one draft pick this weekend, while another seems unlikely to suit up. That and more on today's episode of Locked On Bucs.
You are Locked On Buccaneers, your daily Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, and welcome into this Friday live edition of Locked On Bucs, your daily podcast covering the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. Don't forget you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube, where you are watching live right now, or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can follow on Twitter. I am James Yarcho, deputy editor of SB Nation's BucsNation.com, on Twitter at @JYarcho_Bucs. David was planning on being here. He ended up having a scheduling conflict at the very last minute. So you're just stuck with me today. But David and I will be back for a special live bonus episode Saturday on YouTube at 6 o'clock. We're going to get in and out before that Alabama-Texas game starts, so you guys can come back. We're going to talk Demon Hunter. I saw you in the comment section before the show even started. We're going to address the Mike Evans stuff on tomorrow's episode. Not going to talk about it here, but David and I will talk about the Mike Evans situation on tomorrow's live episode, as well as preview the rest of the season. But we are here with you every Monday through Friday, along with our everydayers. And as always, we want to share our appreciation for your continued support of the show. This episode of Locked On Bucs is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL, all lowercase, for a first deposit match up to $100. Keys to the game, bold predictions, score predictions, all coming up a little bit later. But first, we are going to talk about who's in and who's out. This is the entire reason David and I switched to Friday evenings live for our Friday episodes. We wanted to have the final injury report before coming on here and talking about the game. So, on that final injury report before week one, the Buccaneers have two players listed as questionable for this weekend's game against the Minnesota Vikings, one of which I think will be out when the ball is kicked off at 1 o'clock p.m. Claijah Kancey, who has been dealing with a calf injury, was a full participant on Friday and marked as questionable. Meanwhile, Cody Mauch has not participated in practice the last 2 days. He is also marked questionable. I do think we see the debut of Claijah Kancey against the Minnesota Vikings. I think Cody Mauch is going to sit this one out. So Kancey, I think, is going to be on a pitch count as they kind of ease him into the defense, ease him into the season. He missed the preseason. He's been dealing with that calf strain. So there's probably going to be certain packages, certain situations where we're going to see Claijah Kancey on the field. But in the instance of Cody Mauch, he's missed the last 2 days, which is already a bad sign. But you mix the fact that he's an offensive lineman dealing with a back injury, and that is a terrible combination. Back injuries absolutely stink. And if you have never had one, let me tell you from personal experience, I have had many. We're talking, I have had reconstructive spinal surgery, and I injure my back at least twice a year. The smallest tweak, the slightest wrong movement will set your recovery back for at least a week. I mean, you sneeze, and all of a sudden, you're back to square one, and your back is in excruciating pain. So you talk about a guy who's responsible for blocking 350, 400-pound defensive linemen, trying to move them where they don't want to go with a back injury. That is a terrible idea. At this point, it's better for the Buccaneers, it's better for Cody Mauch to sit him out this weekend. Todd Bowles already spoke to the media and said if Cody Mauch can't go, looks like Aaron Stinney is going to take his place as the starter. Right guard is a place where Aaron Stinney has started plenty of games before in the past. He can do it again. It's not going to be a huge drop-off, if it's any drop-off at all. So the smart decision is go ahead and let Cody Mauch sit this one out. They said they're waiting until game day before they make a final decision, but I do think it's in the best interest of both sides for Cody Mauch to go ahead, sit this one out, get that back right, because again, I mean, you could be tying your shoe and you re-injure your back. They are the absolute worst. So other Buccaneers on the injury report, you had Kayvon Merriweather with a groin, Anthony Nelson with a hamstring, Antoine Winfield Jr. with a quad. All were full participants on Friday, and all of them will play on Sunday. For the Minnesota Vikings, outside linebacker Marcus Davenport is questionable with an ankle injury. Linebackers Troy Dye with an elbow and punter Ryan Wright with an ankle were both full participants on Friday. Both will play on Sunday, but keep an eye on Marcus Davenport and his status for the game. Before we move on, let's go ahead and jump over to the YouTube comment section, see what's going on in here. Demon Hunter says, great to chat with you, James. As always, I appreciate you, buddy. I really enjoy seeing all of you in the chat. And you know, we have a lot of everydayers, every livers. Let's call you guys every livers. There are a lot of people that I see in every single live chat. I appreciate you guys so much. G Vegas says, rather have Mauch than Kancey. Man, I hope the injury bug stops hitting us. Honestly, I would rather have Kancey than Mauch. If I have to choose between these two players for week one, I would rather have the speed, the versatility, and the threat of Claijah Kancey on that defensive line than Cody Mauch. Like I mentioned, I don't think going from Cody Mauch to Aaron Stinney, if there is any drop-off, it's going to be a huge one. I think what Kancey brings to this defense compared to, Logan Hall, I think can be night and day. I think Claijah Kancey can truly be a major difference maker in this game. So if I have to choose, obviously I want both guys to be healthy. I want both guys on the field. But if I have to choose between the two, I think it's more important to have Kancey out there this week than it is to have Mauch. Demon Hunter in the chat, having Winfield is going to be great. Yes, it is. Richard, I see your bold prediction in there. You may have to bear with me. I'll get to your bold prediction when we get to that. That's coming up a little bit later. But coming up next, what are the keys to a Buccaneers victory on both offense and defense? That's coming up next on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair. No drugs, no compromises, just better hair. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, visible thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements use physician-formulated, natural, science-backed ingredients. Their drug-free, patented technology provides consistent, reliable results without compromising your sexual health. Go to Nutrafol.com/men to take their health wellness quiz. Identify causes of your thinning hair, and Nutrafol will give you a personalized plan for better hair health through whole body wellness. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting root causes of thinning, such as stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism through whole body health. And it works. In a clinical study, 84% of men showed improvement in their hair after 6 months taking Nutrafol's men's hair growth supplements. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Find out why over 4,000 healthcare professionals recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men, spelled Nutrafol.com/men, and enter promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's Nutrafol.com/men, promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Thank you again for making Locked On Bucs your first listener view every single day. And a special thanks to all you everydayers and all you every livers out there who are tuning in. Don't forget, we will be back Saturday live on YouTube at 6 o'clock for our final season preview kickoff for the Buccaneers 2023 season. I can't really do super quick math, but we're looking at about 18 hours or 42 hours, about 42 hours away from kickoff for the Buccaneers season. But not only are many people not giving the Bucs really a chance this season, even more aren't giving them a chance this weekend. So what do the Bucs need to do to grab a win in Minnesota? I'm going to give you the keys to the game, both offensively and defensively. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball, and that is to get Rachaad White going early to open up Evans and Godwin later. I know a lot of you are not going to be happy with this take. A lot of you are still bitter and frustrated about all of the runs that they had on first down last year. It became predictable. It became counterproductive, but the Buccaneers need to commit to the run game early and often in this one. But in order for it to open up for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, it has to be successful. The Vikings are going to want to challenge Baker Mayfield early, and they're going to come with pressure immediately, right out of the gate. They are going to try to rattle Baker Mayfield and get him off his game and try to create opportunities for their defense. Last year, that defense was terrible. The Vikings were 31st in pass defense, giving up 265 and a half passing yards per game. They gave up the third most points per game with 25.1. On top of that, the Vikings also gave up over 123 rushing yards a game. So, establishing Rachaad White early on in this game is going to force Minnesota to respect what was last year's worst rushing attack in the NFL. So, they're going to come into this game probably still thinking the Bucs are not effective in the run game. If they watch the preseason, they know they don't have to worry about Keyshawn Vaughn, but they didn't really see a whole lot of Rachaad White. They saw plenty of Sean Tucker, who's probably going to be the RB2. He's listed on the depth chart as RB2. We'll see how much work he gets, but they're going to come into this game not respecting the rushing attack of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So you have to force them to respect that. You have to pound the rock in every conceivable way, giving Rachaad White opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to pick up positive yardage, move the chains, and that will end up opening things up for Evans and Godwin. Remember, we talk about how football is a chess match. So even if you're showing a look early that you're going to run out of in a rushing situation later in the game, you can show them that exact same look and then pass out of it. Dave Canales talked about there's a lot of different things they like to do out of formations that are not the norm. If it looks like a rushing formation, they're going to pass. If it looks like a passing formation, they're going to run. They want to keep the defenses honest and guessing, not being able to predict the way the defenses did against Byron Leftwich with such success last year. So you have Byron Murphy Jr., you have a Caleb Evans as the starting corners for the Minnesota Vikings. They are already going to have their hands full with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin if it's a man-on-man situation. Trey Palmer can then take advantage of the Vikings if they feel the need to double Evans and or double Godwin, and he can create opportunities with his speed and his yards after catch ability. So you take a look at all of those things. The number one most important thing for this offense to get going and start giving the Bucs an opportunity to upset Minnesota, get Rashad rolling early. It has to be early in the game, and all these dominoes are going to start to fall into place. Defensively, my key to the game, do not beat yourself. How many times have all of you in the live chat seen me on here as red as my shirt because I'm so angry at the penalties and the self-inflicted wounds that this team loves to have? Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison are going to be a handful. TJ Hawkinson is going to be a handful. You cannot give them free chances with pass interferences, with defensive holding calls. You have to play tough. You have to play physical, but you have to play smart. You can't get a defensive holding call on Justin Jefferson with, on a 3rd and 9 and give them a free first down. Give them a free opportunity to continue to put points on the board, because this offense in Minnesota will absolutely do that. Kirk Cousins was sacked 47 times last season, 8th most in the NFL. So pass rush not only has to get home, but they have to finish plays. That means Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, talking to you, buddy. You have to come out of the gates getting pressures, getting hits, getting hurries, getting sacks. You have to finish those plays. You cannot let Kirk Cousins escape the pocket, buy an extra couple of seconds, and find Jefferson or Addison or Alexander Madison on a dump off for extra yards, extra opportunities, extra sets of downs. Bowles needs to be creative in dialing up pressure through blitzes. You need this Buccaneers defense to get home and get after Cousins without sending blitzes. But on top of that, you have to be very creative and very cautious about who you're blitzing and when you're blitzing them. So you dial those up at the right time, and it's going to create chaos for Kirk Cousins. You're going to be able to create the pressure, create the forced bad passes by Cousins to give your secondary and your linebackers like Devin White and Levante David opportunities to get takeaways. Jefferson is a completely different animal, but Carlton Davis did a great job on Jamar Chase, who I think we would all put pretty close to Justin Jefferson in a tier ranking of wide receivers. And he's going to have his chances against Jefferson in this game, but you have to take advantage of those chances when they come. You have to have a clean game. You cannot have stupid penalties, and you have to finish pressure plays. Turn those pressures, turn those hurries into sacks, and the Buccaneers are going to come away with an upset in this one. Going to jump over to the chat real quick before we hit the next break. James Rude Beard Yarcho, I predicted what you said right. I'm not sure why I'm being called Rude Beard, but okay, I'll take it. I've been called worse, I guess. Demon Hunter in the chat. Buccaneers get 6 sacks on Kirk. Whew, that's a lot. 2 from Shaq, 1 from Vita, 1 from Kancey, 1 from Tryon-Shoyinka, and 1 from Devin. If they get 6 sacks in this game, they will win this game by a wide margin. Daytona Dad, my buddy in the chat, he's throwing in a bold prediction. White for 100+ yards and 2 touchdowns. I like that. I like that a lot. Player of the game, score predictions, bold predictions, all coming up next here on Locked On Bucs. Prize Picks is really simple to play, and I can make my picks and submit my entry in less than 60 seconds. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types are what makes Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Prize Picks offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value. And for people like me, this was awesome. Prize Picks now offers Apple Pay for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. This week, I am going with Rachaad White to go for more than 47 and a half rush yards. Joe Mixon, more than 19 and a half receiving yards. Kyle Pitts, fewer than 37 and a half receiving yards. Joe Burrow, fewer than 265 and a half passing yards. Jalen Hurts, more than 1.5 passing touchdowns. And finally, to round things out, Nick Chubb to get more than half total touchdowns. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Wrapping things up here on a Friday live edition of Locked On Bucs. And let's start things off with the bold predictions. David did send in his bold predictions, his score prediction, and his player predictions. His bold prediction might be the boldest out of anybody in this chat, including the 6 sacks predicted by Demon Hunter in the chat. He is saying Zion McCollum is going to get an interception. That was it. No explanation. Just Zion McCollum's getting an interception, and that's about as bold as they get. I'm not sure we see that happen, but hey, if it does, fantastic. For my bold prediction, I am taking the Bucs to win the turnover and the penalty battle. The Bucs are going to finish the game with more takeaways while having fewer penalties and penalty yards than the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota is a very tough, very loud place to play. So it's certainly going to be a challenge for the Bucs to not run into those false start issues, illegal formation issues, things like that. But I was certainly impressed with their week-to-week improvement over the preseason, focusing on cutting those penalties way, way down. I want to see that continue into the regular season, speaking it into existence right here on this show. Bucs win the turnover battle. Bucs have fewer penalties and penalty yards than the Vikings. For player of the game, David isn't even here, but he took my player. And from all the things that I've said this week, I'm sure you guys can figure out who I was going to go with and who David did go with. It is Rachaad White. And David texted me saying, if the offense has any balance, it'll be because White gets going. And with a now injured offensive line on top of the questions we already had, he's going to have to be at his best. I agree wholeheartedly. Dave Canales is going to rely a lot on Rachaad White's ability to run the football. It's my biggest key to the Buccaneers getting the upset on the offensive side of the ball. It's going to be huge for Rachaad White to be at his absolute best. My predicted player of the game is Devin White. Yes, Carlton Davis is going up against Justin Jefferson, and that is a critical matchup. But Devin White has to completely ball out in this one. He has to keep Alexander Madison's output at a minimum in both the run and the passing game. Then you have to add in the times where he is going to be the one covering TJ Hawkinson, the highest paid tight end in the National Football League. I'm not going to say he's the best because we all know Travis Kelce is the best, but Hawkinson's top 4. And I think all of you in the chat will agree with me. You might even argue with me that he's top 3. But there are going to be times throughout this game that Hawkinson is going to be matched up against Devin White. Devin White has to win those battles. No questions asked. He has to come away. If he is the one on Hawkinson for 4 of Hawkinson's targets, he can only allow 1 catch at the absolute most, and that catch cannot be in the end zone. He's also going to have to be a big part of the pass rush. So Devin White is vital in run stopping. He's vital in pass coverage. He's vital in pass rush. If Devin White if Rachaad White has to be at his best, then Devin White has to be at his to help make the Vikings a one-dimensional team and create opportunities for his guys in the secondary like Carlton Davis or Jamel Dean or Antoine Winfield Jr. You throw in his blitzes, you throw in his pressures on Kirk Cousins, and he has a great chance to start this season off really, really hot. Finally, the score predictions. So our everydayers know David has spent a lot of time this offseason bashing the Vikings over, what they did last season, saying that, yeah, they won 13 games or whatever, but they weren't an actual 13-win team. They were a team that made the playoffs. They weren't really a playoff team. They were overhyped. They overachieved, yada, yada, yada. And when we did our schedule release win-loss predictions, he took the Bucs to win this game. Now he changed his mind. He told me that he thinks the Bucs are going to be a lot like the Jacksonville Jaguars from last season. They're going to start off a little bit rough, but get stronger as the season progresses. In this matchup, they're going up against a team that won their division last year, that went to the playoffs last year. They already have chemistry. They already have trust. Tampa has to build to that point. So he is taking the Vikings to win 28-22. I have gone back and forth on this game all week. Like, no joke, every day I change my mind about who I think is going to win. And every single time that I think that I've made up my mind, I talk myself into changing my mind again. I think it's a really tall task for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team to go on the road, to go to Minnesota, and to win. But I look at the first month where they go to Minnesota, they host the Bears, they play the Eagles in prime time, they have to go to New Orleans in week 4. As crazy as it sounds, I'm not going to call this a must win. We're talking about week 1 of the NFL season. But this game is far more important to the Buccaneers than it is to the Vikings. And it's far more important for a multitude of reasons. The Buccaneers have been consistently berated and discounted and dismissed ever since Tom Brady announced he was retiring. Baker Mayfield has been dismissed. The national pundits and the experts have talked about how this team is in contention for the number 1 draft pick because Tom Brady left, completely forgetting that there's all these other star players on the football team. The Buccaneers have the most massive chip on their shoulder that you can have for an NFL team. They are out to prove that it wasn't Tom by himself. They have star players, they have talent, and they can still win football games and compete to win a 3rd consecutive NFC South division title. So, if my bold prediction comes true and the Bucs win that turnover battle and win that penalty battle, then the Buccaneers are going to win this football game. Give me the Bucs 23-21. I'm going to jump over to the chat one more time. Daytona Dad, you're just pandering now. He says Cade Otton, player of the game, in the YouTube chat. We got, let's see, Bucks 27, Vikes 24 in overtime from Donald in the chat. Demon Hunter saying we're going to start off 4-0. Let's calm down. Let's just calm down, Demon Hunter. The Eagles are arguably a top 3 team in the NFL. I'm very confident in saying the Eagles are going to beat the Bucks, but we'll see what happens. Demon Hunter also says, you saw what happened to Patrick last night. One player does not make a team. That is 100% accurate. We got Joel in the chat, 27-6 Bucks. Baker has an amazing game. CD locks JJ up. I would like that, but also I have Justin Jefferson in fantasy. I would like him to do something. Give me 10 receptions for 100 yards, no touchdowns. Can we agree on that compromise, Joel? We got Richard in the chat, 27-23 Buccaneers. Demon Hunter calling for Mayfield to have 315 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no picks. That might be a bit extreme. And I know I got to fly back up here. I promised one of our viewers, Richard, in the chat. Bold prediction: Bucks' first offensive play is a flea flicker touchdown. I love that. I would love that so much to come out with that kind of play on the very first snap of the season. Give me that. Joel does not accept my terms. He says that he's playing against Justin Jefferson. All right, fine. Come back for the immediate reaction show after the game on Sunday, Joel, and we will discuss if Jefferson helped or hurt either of our respective teams. Also, make sure all of you are coming back tomorrow night, Saturday night on YouTube, 6 o'clock live. David and I will be on here doing our final season preview, and we're going to talk about the Mike Evans situation before the season gets underway, because hopefully this doesn't turn into a season-long discussion. Mike said that he's not talking about it to reporters anymore. The deadline is out there. We're going to talk about it, and then hopefully that's kind of the end of the discussion for the rest of the year until we get into the offseason. But 6 o'clock YouTube, Saturday night. Make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. We're closing in on 5,000. Give us those subs on YouTube. Help us hit that 5,000 mark. Set the notification so as soon as we go live, you can become an every liver in the chat to go along with all of our everydayers. We want to thank you so much for making Locked On Bucs your first listen review every single day. Check out all of my work over at bucksnation.com. Follow on Twitter at Locked On Bucs, at Yarcho_Bucs, and follow David at DHarrison82. Hope you all have an absolutely outstanding day. Stay safe, stay healthy, fire the cannons. Thank you so much for joining me right here on Locked On Bucs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.